All right. So we come to the second lecture on software designing, and hopefully by last week's activity, it was clear to all of you that the importance of software designing, and not only at a small level, but also how the advantages in fact multiply as the project succeeds in the stages. So for a moment, let us try to imagine that you are at the implementation of your software. Okay, so basically what you have done is that you have a mentally prepared design of your software in your mind, but you have not documented it. So when you go forward to implementing your software without having a proper documented design, there are always chances that not only implementation will be time consuming, but it will be error prone as well. So that is why we need to, as last time Tarun had pointed out, that what is the importance of designing of software. So in fact, in documentation form. So that is why it is important that you know what exactly you are trying to create when you have a documented design, and not only which has been made in haste, but which has gone through multiple iterations to understand what exactly your system is supposed to do. Now, the danger associated with going to implementation without having a design aspect is that when you are at an implementation stage, you are actually thinking in an implementation level. So when you see that okay, there is something that is not working at implementation stage and what could go wrong, so uh, it takes a lot of effort to switch your mind from implementation stage to design stage, and that will create trouble in reconstructing the relevant design details. So that is why, as we had seen in this previous class, I don't know where it is. So I think this is always good to remember that the future stages. So the previous stages are the foundations for the future stages. So as you can see that implementation depends on how robust your detailed design is, which in turn depends on high level design. So always remember this kind of pyramid whenever you are trying to tackle any problem related to software development. All right. So I've launched a poll also, and just so can you can respond whether or not the according to you design process is static or dynamic, and not only that, also keep on thinking behind your minds that what exactly makes it dynamic. So hopefully it's clear that before you actually go to implementation stage, always have at least a high level design of your system before you go to implementation stage. Now let us talk about designing, structuring the design process. So even though design process is dynamic, that means it is evolving. It is helpful to think it in process terms, and I've always mentioned that everything, every project that you will undertake in your life, in your academic life, in your personal life, in your professional life, it is always good to imagine things in process terms. It is always a work in progress. So it is true for the design process also. But we should not try to constrain the design behavior. In fact, structure helps in bringing precision to what and how the design proceeds. And human mind is hardwired to understand things only when it can literally interact with things or see things, be it on pen on paper or actually seeing the design on the computer screen. So basically, a design process is a highly systematic and organized way in which you are showcasing how the information and different modules in your system will be interacting. And going forward, we will talk about multiple types of designs also. So this will become much clearer going down. So uh, this is a short diagram to explain the requirement specification design cycle. So what exactly is happening here is you have specified your requirements, and there is a two-way communication between your system specification and requirement specification. So after having specified your system, you will again check requirements whether or not your system is actually doing justice to requirement specification, and then you jump to designing a high level system design. So then you break down this high level design into product specification. So there are multiple products, say n products, that are part of your system. And each product, when you specify each product, that means specification of each product in your system means you will be designing a high level design for each product. So then a high level design is uh, thought of for each product. Then from high level, you then again go, so product is made up of components. So to be able to arrive at proper product high level design, after having arrived at it, then you again break down into component level specifications. So this is what is happening in this part. And after you have specified the components, then each component will have its high level design. After that, then each component then will have a module level specification, and then each module will have its detailed design. So, in this way, what you are trying to do is you are trying to break your system into products. Products are specified, then high level design of products, then in turn, what components make that product, and then component high level design, and definitely modules make different components, and then you are specifying the module detailed design. So this is basically a requirement specification design cycle, which is telling you that there is a continuous conversation between requirement specification, system specification, and design. So these two-way arrows indicate that there is a sort of duplex communication happening between these stages. So this is in brief how the requirement specification design cycle looks like, which is important to understand, and it will become better to understand when you will be trying to design something like this for your software. All right. So there are different design phases when you're talking about software designing. Definitely, we have talked a lot about specifying the requirements clearly, analyzing them, and validating them. So that is the first step. Then your system specification is there. So in system specification, although there is not much concrete definitions, but it's a broad level overview of what exactly your system is trying to do. It could be breaking down your requirements into functional requirements or non-functional requirements and other details. Then you conceptualize the solution. So you're basically designing a high level design. And going forward, we will learn something called as the contextual diagram. The contextual diagram is a very layman view of how your system looks like, and then going to different stages of data flow diagram, level 1, level 2, level 3. So after that, you divide up the work, which is something called as product specifications, and don't get intimidated by all these terms. I think these becomes much more easier to understand when you're actually doing it. So you will understand these when in your lab sessions you are doing this. And then products are broken down into components, components into modules, and again, then you start to implement your solution. So look at the process approach to software design. So this is important to look at. Then after design, then we come to design specification. So again, we have to be specific about the designs that we are making, so that the implementation can be specific and also precise. We are not wasting our resources and time. So again, design specification means it's a complete and precise statement of what the program must do. So, as development proceeds, the system is again divided into major products, each of which must be specified and designed. You see, you at each stage, you are trying to gain a deeper understanding of the smaller level modules that make the bigger level modules. So, this is how you specify your design. Again, I think it is extremely important to remember that a good design will resolve many issues, and this is difficult to uh, believe until and unless you are at an implementation stage and then something is not working, and then you are forced back to see whether or not the conception of software design that you had in your mind is actually suitable or not for the product that you are making. So, and this was also one of the things that we had done in a previous week's activity, that a good design resolves many issues uh, in the implementation stage of the product. So basically, on broad level, there are two types of software design approach. There's something called as top-down approach and the bottom-up approach. Fairly self-explanatory. In top-down approach, which is also most widely used, the larger problem is broken down into major tasks, and then each task is broken down into subtasks until each task is simplified and specified into self-contained module. Whereas in bottom-up approach, and this is usually used for problems which are too large and complex, so it can be difficult to decompose, or you are working on a problem that you have no idea of, extremely new problem, you have no idea of what you're trying to build. So then you're trying to approach that problem by attacking the parts of the problem individually. So in bottom-up approach, you take the easier aspects first and gaining insights on how to solve the difficult tasks. And then later on, you piece together the system, the pieces to give rise to a more complex systems. So at this point, I want to ask, what do you think has the complexity got to do with which kind of design approach a software developer needs to use when it comes to software designing? So, what are the factors which help in deciding whether to go for top-down approach or bottom-up approach? What do you think could be the determining factors?
Oh, can you please repeat the question now?
I'm asking now that you have a fair bit of idea of what top-down approach is, software designing, bottom-up approach is. I'm asking, given the projects that you are doing in the context of them, what do you think helps a developer to decide which approach to go for in the software designing? So, which approach should developer choose? What are the factors that influence this choice of software design approach? Is the question clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Uh,
what? Yes.
so can you explain what is bottom-up approach? I'm not so clear about it.
So, as you can see on the slide in front of you, in top-down approach, so
Ma'am,
is
your
basically,
voice is a little low. Can you speak a little louder?
is it better now? Is it better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So top-down approach, as you can see on your screens. So basically, this is the problem. Suppose this is the major problem. You are breaking down the problems into sub-problems and then
Yes, ma'am.
tackling.
I'm asking about bottom-up approach.
Bottom-up approach is when you are targeting the smaller elements first, and then you are trying to integrate them to form the final solution. So basically, it is used when the problem is, maybe you have the problem is too large and complex and it may be very difficult to decompose. So in top down, you're decomposing the problem, whereas in bottom up, you're composing the solution from the different sub elements and trying to integrate them in a later stage.
So we can say that if the problem can be divided into meaningful parts, then bottom-up approach would be good. And if the problem can't be made into I mean, meaningful parts, then it has to be broken down into some other parts. Then we can use top-down.
Okay, so anyone wants to point out uh, or cross question what Tarun may have said just now? So Prasad mentions that bottom-up approach is good when we have many important subparts of the problem. But in top-down approach also, the subparts can be important. So what makes you believe that? Sanidhya has mentioned that when all the features are known, we can go for top-down or bottom-up. Sanidhya, when final product is known, we can use top-down. Okay. So I think again it comes down to how familiar you may be with the kind of solution you are making, or how much deep knowledge you have about what you're trying to create. If you're trying to create something, that suppose you're trying to create a website, let's say. So when you think about creating a website, let's say for that example, which approach do you usually take? Top down approach or bottom up approach, and why? Or any of them?
I mean, as far as I understand, we can take any method, but if if it has many parts and that parts take time, we can do it in top-down approach. Like we are making a website, we can first start by using the index page, I mean, the first front landing page and the other parts. Or else, if we can make few different projects and college them, anything can be. But I mean, we can do anything about web development. Yes.
Yes. So yes, sometimes any of the approach can be taken, but then when you're trying to, so imagine bottom up approach as assembling pieces of furniture to create the final furniture, like in the IKEA furniture, wherein you have to assemble the different pieces to complete the overall furniture. So basically, in top down design, what is happening is that you are breaking down a system to gain insight into its composition subsystems. So definitely, before you can break down the system into component level, you have to have a good amount of understanding of the system. That is a prerequisite for the top-down design. And in that particular type of design, the overview of system is formulated, specifying but may not detailing at any first level systems. Then each subsystem is refined to greater detail until and unless you are at the most grassroots level, and then there is no breaking possible. So this kind of designing emphasizes planning and complete understanding of the system. Now this is always debatable whether or not we will understand the complete system at the first place. So that is why uh, because it's practically impossible to understand everything about the system at the design stage, because some of the things become clear even at the implementation stage. I mean, let's not not discuss this, because even at requirement stage we cannot always understand 100% requirements. But in top-down design, again, no coding can begin until a sufficient level of detail has been reached in the designing aspect. Once you have sort of created this top-down tree for your software or the product that you're trying to create, then you can start tackling the coding part. So this is how the top-down view looks like. So what do you, when you look at this image, how do you relate it to top-down design? What exactly is this image showing you? So this is,
A bird's eye view.
yes, so you can see that this is sort of a snapshot from above, and you can see the different landscapes and the how clearly they are delineated and separated. So you can actually identify while looking at them. So they are properly categorized and specified. So this is a pictorial, description of what a top-down view looks like. Let us take an example to understand the top-down approach. For example, you want to make pancakes. So, so you know what you're trying to make, which is pancakes in this particular example. So before you can accomplish what is this making of pancakes written in the green text box, you need to accomplish these three subtasks. When these three subtasks are completed, then you can say that, okay, my pancakes have been made. So then you organize your kitchen, you make pancakes, and then you serve them. Now, again, what do you mean by organizing your kitchen? So And so then you further break down it to subtasks that organizing kitchen entails. You can clean your the surfaces of kitchen and get all the necessary material to organize the kitchen. Then in making pancake stage, you do all these kind of activities. You're sifting salt and flour into bowl, you're breaking eggs, adding water, adding butter, and then cooking. Then again, this cooking can be broken down into the different things that will happen, and then the cooking is complete. So, and then you can serve. So even serve can be broken down into all these things. So by this analogy, uh, I hope top-down design is clear to you. What you're doing basically is you're breaking down the upper level products or components in your software into smaller levels, and then gradually reaching towards the goal by completing the smaller level elements. But again, if I would ask someone who doesn't know what are pancakes, and I would ask him or her to make pancakes, then they may not be immediately able to arrive at this kind of approach. They might have to study also that, okay, what are pancakes? And then after having sufficient knowledge and information about it, then they can decide, okay, let me tackle it in a this approach. So this example I wanted to show, using this example, how a top-down approach looks like. So this is kind of analogous example for the software designing approach. So the advantages of top-down design are that it helps you to develop a broader perspective. So the information system may be implemented if without first understanding the business from general man. So when you're trying to explain your software to someone outside of development, then you may need the help of top-down designing so that you can explain what exactly the system doing. Is there too much noise from my side?
No, ma'am.
Okay, just a second. Thank you. Then the second advantage of top-down design is that there is improved integration. So there's a possibility of improved integration since you have spent so much of time in refining the finer elements of your software. Definitely, when you are into integration, you will be able to understand in a much better way how to integrate different modules to arrive at a high level functioning. Then sometimes, and this is not a technical advantage but fairly important in the success of the software, the management support. If not viewed from the top, planners may lack sufficient management acceptance of the role of information system in helping them achieve business objectives. So imagine it like this, because software development involves lots of stakeholders and not everybody is from technical background. So definitely, and there are lots of meetings that happen within organization and companies also before actually a software is put into implementation stage and into commercialization stage. In fact, you would be surprised to know that most of the novel products that are created and developed, they go through a particular cycle. In fact, they become patents also, and they are published in journals also. But at some stages, they unfortunately do not get commercialized. So the idea has been passed, the patent has been created, but then when it came to commercialization, somehow they could not pass through the stages. So there are lots of complications involved even in software, and I hope from this module you will start to see the softwares in new light, uh, because I'm appreciating the kind of depth of thinking and understanding that goes on to even creating a small piece of software. The fourth advantage of top-down design is that it helps developers, planners, designers to implement the product across a vast system rather than simply individual operating units. So, cutting down all these technical things, just understand that, uh, as we had seen in the previous slides, a good design will solve many problems. And the advantage of top-down design, but again, it comes with the prerequisite that you know what you're trying to create. It helps you to a better plan your process of software development, And when you have that blueprint of your top down approach before you go to implementation stage, then if something happens weird or funny during the implementation stage, you can always come back to the approach that you're using and then work on it and specify exactly where the problem lies. So this is the advantage of top down design. So uh, this is one of the examples of how you could use top down design for building a search engine. So what do you think is happening here?
The search engine is broken into its component parts, and the components are divided into their corresponding modules.
Yeah, and then they're subdivided into different modules. What do you think,
Yes,
at which stage does this branching out stops or it should stop? What do you think about that?
like when the modules become undividable, like there is nothing much to divide in the module, then they'll stop.
Yes, so I think from this particular uh, photo or image, you can appreciate that what is happening in the top down design when you want to create a search engine. So each refinement is done at each step, and basically you're trying to follow a decomposition approach or divide and conquer approach. Yes, again, there might be a possibility that even though the units are integrated in some manner, they are somehow also operating in an independent manner from each other, as Garvit has mentioned. But again, they are in a larger symphony wherein they are all interacting with each other to provide a larger level functionality. Okay. So basically, in top-down design, you separate subtasks and they are expanded and defined until the problem is solved, and each subtask is tested and verified before it is expanded further. So yes, even when you are suppose at chloral stage, then you need to question yourself and discuss among your team members, okay, what does chloral entail? Then you will have a queue, client and database. So similarly, discussion really helps. And in this week's lab also, uh, you would be designing something like this, discussing among your team members whether you want to go for top down design or bottom approach design, and create sort of this branching design for the product that you are making. So in summary, the top down approach starts from journal and moves to the specifics. So, and this is how it helps you to understand what exactly you will be creating and tackling to accomplish the overall software functionality. The bottom up design, and I can totally understand that it is very easy to get confused between the two kinds of approaches, and I will use exactly the same example of search engine to also show that how bottom up approach can also be used. So bottom up design, you are piecing together the systems to give rise to more complex systems. Now, ultimately, when you read this first line, it becomes very clear that okay, before I can piece together the systems to create a more complex systems, I need to know those small pieces. So these individual base elements of the systems are specified in great detail, and then they are linked together to form larger subsystems. Now, a common sense question would be that how do I know what the individual base elements are if I don't know the larger subsystem? So, what do you think about it? In the bottom up design, when you are piecing together smaller elements to create the larger piece of software, what do you think? What will help you to decide and choose what are the small level elements, the base elements? So how do you identify those individual base level elements for your bottom up design?
If there is a big project and there are some independent parts of it, then which are we group the things which are dependent on each other and make them as a module, like a
Okay.
part of it.
Okay. Yeah. So that could be one way. And in bottom-up design, what
For
happens is,
this, we need to understand the project well.
so again, yes, you have the level of understanding differs. In bottom-up design, we may not be extremely aware of what exactly is happening, but we try to tackle the problem. So in bottom-up design again, because we are trying to integrate the smaller level to arrive at a larger level, sometimes it often emphasizes coding and early testing, so that once you are finished with this, then you can see, okay, what are the other individual base elements. So modules are often coded without having a clear idea of how they link to other parts of the system. Now, what kind of situation would that be in which developers do not have a clear idea of how to link the different modules to other parts of the system? What kind of situation can you imagine would it look like? So again, it comes down to the nature of the project, the nature of the problem that you are trying to solve. It will not, so if you are trying to solve a problem uh, which others may have worked on and you have read, but still you are coming it at very new perspective, then it will be very difficult. The second example could be if you're trying to create something that nobody has created and even you don't know how to create it, then you will try to follow a maybe a bottom up design, because you're working on the bricks and then trying to see how a wall can be made up from those bricks. So bottom up design can be imagined as something like this. You may be familiar with Lego blocks also. So those are the individual elements and then you join them together to ultimately make some building, chair, or whatever you think. So this is a simple way to understand what bottom up design looks like. In this image, you can see that building blocks are used to show bottom up design because the parts are first created and then they're assembled without regard to how the parts will work in the assembly. So there is a lot of uncertainty also involved in bottom up design, and that is why, as we had seen in the first slide, that top down approach is the most widely used kind of approach when it comes to software designing. Okay, so the advantages and disadvantages of bottom up design. uh, Bottom up design can help to attack parts of the problem, in which you can take the easier aspects first and then you understand, okay, what exactly is happening in this particular module, and then integrate them together to find the complete solution. Sometimes it can be faster and less costly to develop than using a top down approach. What do you think could what do you think uh, is the reason that bottom up can be faster and less costly to develop than using a top down approach? What do you think could be the reason behind this statement? So, if you have a clear understanding of the sub modules or the lower level modules, and some piece of code already exists to accomplish that kind of functionality, then you can reuse those modules to later integrate into the overall software that you are trying to make. Bottom up designing, because again, it's quite self understanding that there is room for experimentation when you're doing bottom up design, because it's like playing with Lego blocks and try to create something. So again, for complex and project softwares that you may not have good understanding of, this kind of approach is generally used. But there is a big cost attached to bottom up design, that okay, you have made all the lower level modules, but somehow the integration is not happening as expected. They're not fitting together with each other. And so the entire product creation process or product development process will be having a big question mark on itself. So that is the disadvantage. And bottom up design normally is not used in software development, but there are some examples from other fields that will help you understand what bottom up design is. So let's take example of statistics. Normally what happens in statistics is that when you're trying to understand, let's say you're trying to understand something about India, but obviously you cannot sample, and you're trying to understand about 50 plus years of age of people in India, and obviously you cannot take all the people belonging to this age group. So what you do is you take a sample of the small population, and then you do some kind of analysis on it, and based on the results of the sample you can infer something about the population. So this is an example to help you understand what bottom approach looks like. And similarly, doctors sometimes examine specific symptoms, and then they can infer the general disease that causes those symptoms. So from the lower level elements, they are trying to understand or develop an understanding of a higher level thing. So this is exactly what bottom top approach looks like. The furniture example I gave before, in which you are assembling pieces of furniture to create the overall furniture. Again, it can be debated that it is more like a top-down design, but if you watch any YouTube video of IKEA furniture, I think you will understand what is happening and why it is analogous to bottom-up approach. So in summary, bottom-up approach begins with specific details and moves up to the more journal. Whereas in the top-down, you started it with journal information and then you broke down into specific details. It always depends on the nature of familiarity you have with what you're trying to create. So whatever comes naturally to you as developers, or whatever comes naturally to you as to your team when you're trying to formulate a software design, I would say go with that approach. So I'll take the same example that I had to explain the top down design, and for bottom up also. So although it can be debated that creation of search engine would be fairly known, but just to show you the analogy that even when you're trying to create a search engine, you can start off with understanding hash map list, and then okay, create an index, inverted index from that, and from so you keep on developing these elements, and then finally you integrate them to create a search engine. But definitely, based on your understanding of search engine, it would always depend on your team and your development team what kind of approach you want to take. So bottom up starts with parts, and it is based on composition approach, whereas the top down starts with the whole and then breaks down into parts. So let us try to do an activity. So here on content I have listed 8 points, and here you can see an empty table. So what do you think, which point should go in which box? Just have a look so that we can also together revise what exactly is top down and bottom up model. So look at the content. So for example, if you think 2 should go here in redundancy for top down model, then I
One, yes, ma'am. One must go to top-down model.
okay. So uh, everybody feels that one must go to top down model. In which key?
Focus.
Okay. Anyone else feels differently? Okay. So this goes here. Next. So what do you think about the second one?
Second one should go in bottom up model.
Yes, ma'am.
Which key?
Approach
Approach
key. Approach key.
approach key.
Okay.
Approach.
Moving forward,
Bottom up
Bottom up.
issues.
bottom up issues. Moving forward.
Third one, bottom up redundancy.
So, what do others think? So, what did you say, Tarun?
The third one must go to redundancy in like bottom up.
Better suited as it ensures minimum data redundancy, focusing on usability.
Focus on reusability.
Okay,
Bottom up approach, it reuses the parts.
okay.
Uh,
What is the other thing?
Actually, based on decomposition approaches, top-down model. No?
Okay, Tarun. Okay. And you, I would also like others to participate in this activity. So yes, you have identified rightly that
Third one goes to top down.
top-down which key?
Approach.
Yes. So, but why did we put this here then?
Uh, that was a misunderstanding.
Okay, fine. So hopefully it's clear now. Okay, moving forward.
Third one into issues of top-down model.
Second one into redundancy of top down.
And the remaining here.
Finally, first one.
Okay, so this is a basically a table in which you can understand the difference between the top-down model and bottom-up model in following key areas. And so in this week's lab also, try to arrive at something like this, uh, be it top-down model or bottom-up model for your software that you're trying to create, and that will help you understand. So start discussing among your team members what kind of approach you want to follow, and if you are facing any difficulty, because some of the cases may be entirely new for you to work on, so then when you want to discuss and you're not sure about what kind of uh, designing you want to use for your particular software product, then I will be happy to have a discussion. So from today's lecture, hopefully you have understood what top down and bottom up approach is. And if you uh, may not have understood the content, it is always good to remember this. So I always feel that it is better to understand concepts through images and pics. So look at this diagram, imagine this analogy of creation of fanfics to understand top-down approach, but also remember that there is a very strong role that understanding a problem has in deciding which kind of software design to go for, whether to go for top down or bottom approach. For bottom up, remember Legos or this kind of building blocks which you are using to create something finally. In our tomorrow's class, we will be talking about structured design, and I'll be introducing you to data flow diagrams, which also you will be doing in our this week's lab. So for this week's lab, there will be two activities: uh, creation of sort of a branching out design for your product that you are creating, and then a detailed design using data flow diagrams. So this is what we will be focusing on in this week's lab, and tomorrow we will be talking about data flow diagrams in detail. So start having discussion among your team members about the kind of software designing approach you want to follow, and also put the reasons behind that, because I think it's the reasoning that helps to better understanding of the approach that your team will be taking to understand the software designing you are going to use. So hopefully the difference is a bit clear, if not entirely, but it will become more clear as you apply this knowledge to the projects that you are doing. So that is all from my end today. Thank you so much. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer.